And Liz Storer, head of Advance Australia, Conservative political group. Liz, big protests in Australia back then, free speech. How does that look now when we have this cancel culture, violent protests against Conservatives and Donald Trump? You've got left-wing groups threatening advertisers of conservative shows like this and 2GB. And now a pregnant woman arrested at home in front of her children for posting on Facebook an ad for a protest against Victoria's bans.
A lot's changed in 5 years, Andrew. A lot has changed indeed. Firstly, with this poor lady in Victoria, my goodness, it should have been a phone call. We've got to weigh these things up on motive, and this woman meant no harm. Ballarat is in stage 3 lockdown. She thought it would be okay. And can you blame her just weeks after the Premier let 10,000 Black Lives Matter Marxists walk their way through Melbourne like it wasn't an issue? To Charlie Hebdo, I have to tell this because I just thought this was brilliant. On Wednesday, when the trial opened, Charlie Hebdo edition came out. They had republished the very caricatures of Muhammad that had inflamed these people, these terrorists, to the extent that Charlie Hebdo employees lost their lives. And I just thought it was such a brilliant act of defiance. This is the kind of tenacity that we need to see when standing up for something as basic of freedom as freedom of speech, expression, freedom of the press. And when Turkey's foreign minister came out yesterday condemning this and calling on politicians throughout Europe to disallow this from ever happening again, the French president, President Macron, who I don't back on any other day really, but we'll stand with him on this, he said absolutely not. Here in France, we have the freedom to blaspheme. He said we have freedom of conscience. And it was
great.
Such a brilliant mic drop moment.
But Liz, do you believe that the Premier did not see it?
Not for an instant. And I tell you what, Andrew, if this woman, this Ballarat mum, was Indigenous, we would be all deafened by the screams of the left by now.
My goodness.
Completely deafened.
My goodness.
But where are they? Where are they standing up for freedom of speech? Where? What? Nothing. Crickets.
Liz, why has this panic, this sowing of panic worked so well?
I gotta say, I found it alarming. I didn't think Aussies would fall for this to the extent that they have, and they have. The reason why these premiers are doing this is that, surprisingly, this pandemic protectionism has actually gone really well in the polls. And I was in Perth earlier this year. People loved being behind a closed border. I was in Queensland earlier this year, and again, the family I was staying with loved being behind a closed border. And now that I've made myself sound like a super spreader this year, we've got Scott Morrison at the moment. We've got our Prime Minister looking like the only adult in the room. Last week we saw him come out announcing legislation that's going to stop Premier Dan Andrews' plan to make this Victoria a vassal state of the Chinese Communist Party. Thank God for that. And as we watch this border fiasco continue to unfold, more and more eyes are turning to the feds, because if
but this is the
anyone
point.
can intervene, it's them.